Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to session 3B on the second day of RDAP 2025. And so this is a panel entitled Strengthening Data Management Systems. So this is a Zoom webinar. Attendees are muted and cameras are turned off. To ask a question, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. And as we have several panelists, if you have a question that you would like to direct at a certain individual, please put their name in your question so we know who to direct it to. So this session is going to run from 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So that is 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight to 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight. After the session, if you're, we'll feel free to continue the conversation over in FeedLoop. Drop your questions, drop your comments in the chat over there for this session. So please remember that the Code of Conduct is effect during the summit. The Research Data Access and Preservation Summit organizers are committed to providing an environment where all attendees can participate fully in the program and activities without fear of harassment or discriminatory behavior of any kind. So there is a code of conduct. Generally, there's code of conduct helper available during the session. You can always just reach out to the host, send a message to me, and I can direct you to one of the helpers. But you can also find them in FeedLoop and direct message them there if you need assistance, and they can provide the code of conduct email address or a link to the incident report form if necessary. So with that, I'm going to be quiet now and turn it over to the panelists. And yeah, Maria, take it away.
All right, thanks so much. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Again, we're going to be talking about our pilot for machine actionable data management plans. This pilot was undertaken in collaboration between the California Digital Library and the Association of Research Libraries. So today I'm joined by 5 of our pilot partners. So we're going to hear from Matt Carson from Northwestern. We've got Brianna Wham from Penn State, Matthew Murray from University of Colorado Boulder, Kat Kozar formerly from UC Riverside, currently at Cal State Fresno, and Matthew Harp from Arizona State University. So my name is Maria Pretzelis. I'm with the California Digital Library, and I also wanted to draw attention to a few of our colleagues who are very active in this project weren't able to join us today. So on the CDL side, we have Becky Grady and John Shidaki. We're also working closely with Claire Dean. She's our consultant and project manager. On the ARL side, we have Cynthia Hudson-Vitale and Judy Ruttenberg. So we've dubbed this the Matthew Actionable Plans. You're going to be hearing from 2 of our 3 Matthews that are part of the pilot. So today I'll give a very brief introduction to the pilot project. We'll hear from our 5 partners, a few final thoughts before we open it up for questions at the end. So CDL and ARL, collaboratively and independently, have been working on building out case studies, technical specifications, technical feature sets around machine actionable DMPs for many years. Really we were at a point where we needed more institutions who were actively implementing machine actionable DMPs in their institutions. We needed people to test out our APIs. We needed people to give us feedback, really to put some of these theories into practice so that we could continue to iterate on what we're building and make sure what we're building is in line with what institutions are needing. This pilot project the active phase of the pilot project ran for 1 year, so from January through December of 2024. Currently, the project team are in the process of synthesizing all of our findings. We're going to be doing a series of webinars, reports, so you'll be hearing much more about the project in the coming months. We had 10 participating institutions. I think notable is that we were originally funded through IMLS for a cohort of 4. And we received really, truly a remarkable number of really good applications to be part of this cohort. Even narrowing it down to 10 was challenging. There's definitely a lot of interest in this work, as seen by the number of really quality applications that we saw to become pilot partners. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our first case study here from Northwestern.
Thanks, Maria. Hello, my name is Matt Carson. I'm the first in a trio of Matts on the panel. So last January, Northwestern had the opportunity to join the MAP pilot. And in addition to testing the new machine actionable features, we took the opportunity to learn more about our own institution's research data services. So our team is located in the Galter Hill Sciences Library, which is part of the Feinberg Medical School on Northwestern Chicago campus. And leading up into and after the arrival of the NIH data management sharing policy, our Galter team had been establishing training and support for the Feinberg researchers around this policy and other RDM topics, while also trying to reach out to develop relationships with our institutional stakeholders and research support groups on our campus, as well as the main campus at Evanston. At the same time, we and many of our Northwestern partners were going through reorganization, bringing in some new leadership in some cases, and adding new staff to support RDM activities. While all these changes were happening, it seemed like a good time to find ways to reduce researcher burden, try to improve the RDM workflows, and deepen our understanding of our research data services landscape at any. Next slide, please. One back, please. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the MAP pilot gave us an opportunity to move in this direction, and also to engage and build trust with campus partners around data management services, and to demonstrate the value of machine actionable data management plans to the partners and their workflows. Also, to allow us to create a more complete picture of the RDM services landscape at our university and to see if we could identify opportunities for improvement. We also wanted to create foundation for further machine actionable data management plan integration with other campus tools and like information management systems and our institutional repositories. Next slide, please. Some of our early efforts were focused on creating collaborative and centralized RDM services across the campuses. So with our partners in IT research, computing, and data services and Northwestern University libraries, we established a university-wide RDM consultation service that uses our IT ticketing system. And the members of our 3 units share the consultation responsibilities and divide the support by areas of expertise. And also, thanks to our partners in research, computing, and data services, especially Tobin Magley, we've had a really nice research data management sharing website that links out to the various resources for RDM planning, data storage, sharing, etc. Our Galter team also became co-administrators of Northwestern's DMP tool instance, and now we can contribute to researcher support for the tool and update documentation when we need to. And we've also incorporated more in-depth DMP tool guidance in our RDM classes. And finally, we established some regular meetings with other data services groups around campus, as well as a new quarterly data sharing meeting with the administration of the key units in Feinberg, so that we could discuss issues and trends that come up in researcher support. Slide 4, please. So some of the questions that were asked by our administrators have been fairly straightforward, and some have been answered by funding agencies and other external sources. But when it comes to our researchers and their data sharing activities, the answers become less clear and the questions are harder to answer. So we've discussed some of the issues we think are contributing to this with administration. First, we don't yet have a well-defined process for researchers to follow that allow us to capture the information needed to answer these questions. And for this, we need better guidance on RDM policies at the institutional level. And Secondly, only a fraction of the researchers come to us for DMSP support. And also only a fraction use DMP tool to create their plans in a structured way, as opposed to using a Word document. So we really don't know what we don't know in that case. We're also concerned that as the research projects requiring the new DMSP from the NIH start to mature, researchers are going to come to the point where they need to share the data output from these grants, and the number of support requests are going to grow beyond what we can handle without more resources. Slide 5, please. So through our partner discussions and interviews with the research services personnel, we identified some stakeholders, tools, and documents that are part of our research services landscape, and which ones might be able to benefit from structure and content of the machine actionable DMSPs. For these, we tried to identify stakeholders that had an interest in pursuing a collaboration with us, and also those that were able to contribute some effort towards it. If we want to make improvements within this landscape, we're really just talking about how to get certain data to where it needs to be in an efficient way with as little duplication as possible. So in talking with some of our partners, we decided to focus on creating well-defined proof of concept projects that demonstrate how our research services can be improved in the workflow if we did make a change. As an example, for researchers with a Feinberg appointment or those who use Northwestern patient data, our IRB requires a data security plan for each funded project. And this includes data classification, the data platforms to be used, where data will be stored, how the data will be shared, and other details. Some of that overlaps with the data management sharing plan. So what if we were able to connect the data management sharing plan to the data security plan with the DMP ID, the permanent identifier, or if we could notify IT or the IRB when a new DMSP is created and help them plan or allocate resources. So we're currently in the process of working with the Office of Research and IT to show how this change and some other ideas that we have on the table would how a change in these processes would benefit the research services, and then to demonstrate a workflow using DMP tool API. So we're working on that now. Slide 6, please. Now, during this pilot, we learned that having a unified source for RDM support that directs researchers to where they need to go really helps eliminate confusion and helps them help themselves. We also learned that it's difficult to monitor research progress and ensure compliance without structured and accessible data. And this is exacerbated by the siloing of the tools in the service units. So we hope that by keeping in frequent communication with our partners and administrators, we keep moving in a positive direction, even though we're in uncertain times now. Any technical work we do accomplish will need to be followed up with outreach, communication, and training to make it useful and visible. Next slide, please. So I just want to say thanks to our project team and the MAP pilot team and all the research services partners that participated in our site visit and the interviews. Special thanks to Sarah Gonzalez, who did a lot of the work on this pilot and the site visit, and as well as to Tobin Magley, who's done a lot to help centralize these RDM resources and help coordinate some of this communication between our partners. Thanks very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brianna Wham. I'm going to be talking about what we did as part of this pilot project here at Penn State. So at Penn State, we set out to strengthen campus-wide coordination for research data management and to explore the potential of machine actionable data management and sharing plans to improve our research support services effectiveness and efficiency. So how can we be getting to the researchers and getting them the resources that they need? Our pilot team was composed of individuals in the libraries, the Office of Research, and IT, and our goal was to investigate how leveraging information from machine actionable data management and sharing plans could enhance service efficiency, reduce researcher burden, foster collaboration, and proactively address researcher data needs. We specifically focused on 2 areas, social interoperability and process improvement. And today I'm going to be diving into our efforts to strengthen the social interoperability and cross-campus engagement. Next slide, Maria. Thank you. So we organized a 2-day workshop that brought together key stakeholders involved in research data management and sharing across our institution. Our objective in this was to both raise awareness about machine actionable data management and sharing plans, and to explore their potential to improve communication between our service support units, streamline research data workflows, and support scalable infrastructure that might be built here at the institution. The workshop was attended by research administrators, research support staff from across the research enterprise, librarians, IT professionals, and researchers themselves. And the workshop featured presentations and activities addressing common research data management challenges and how machine actionable data management and sharing plans could help address them. So for instance, on the first day, as you can see here, we began with some level setting activities to map out the research project and research data life cycles, clarifying how each stakeholder's work fit into these processes. We then examined what information a traditional data management and sharing plan contains before diving into an introduction of what are machine actionable data management and sharing plans, and showing some real world use case examples from the other institutions represented here to spark ideas and discussion. Next slide. On day 2, we explored the benefits and challenges of implementing machine actionable data management and sharing plans with the perspective offered from an established institution. We then examined what is happening in the research data management environment here at Penn State to make sure everyone knew what types of initiatives are already kind of happening across the institution, being a very large siloed institution, and what information from machine actionable data management and sharing plans would be valuable to stakeholders and when in the life cycle that information is valuable. Next slide. So here you can see an example of one of the activities that we did. This activity asked participants to identify their role in the research project and data life cycles, and then to outline any challenges and opportunities that they saw. Through this and other exercises, we uncovered that many institutional units share an interest in the information that's contained in machine actionable data management and sharing plans, but they approach the information differently based on their specific responsibilities and the interactions that they have with researchers. So for example, one participant described data management and sharing plans as a list of promises that researchers make to funders about how data will be managed, documented, secured, shared, and preserved. And that understanding these commitments at the time they're made and then tracking their changes throughout a grant emerged as kind of this invaluable resource or information for units on campus that support or are responsible for things like sponsored programs, compliance monitoring, data storage, data security, human subjects protections, and many more. And so understanding and mapping these distinct perspectives, what information each unit needs, when they need that information, how they engage with researchers, and how they collaborate with the other support services that exist on campus is essential information that we need to successfully integrate machine actionable data management and sharing plans into institutional workflows. Next slide. And so this workshop surfaced several institution-wide challenges related to research data management and sharing, while also fostering process sharing, breaking down silos, and building cross-campus connections. It helps strengthen relationships and improve institutional awareness of machine actionable data management and sharing plans. And so it's setting the stage for us for future coordination and integration efforts. Some key takeaways from participant feedback included that they wanted to have continued dialogue. So attendees emphasized the need for ongoing discussions across units and departments to ensure effective stakeholder engagement and information sharing. They also wanted improved cross-unit collaboration, so they saw the value in equipping our stakeholders with the relevant information at proposal submission and award stages to streamline processes that already exist. And they even advised to have a creation of a research data management and sharing advisory committee for the institution to enhance that coordination and visibility of efforts that are already happening. Further, they supported the idea of in building and developing IT infrastructure and the need for that to integrate machine actionable data management and sharing plans into our existing research administration systems. And lastly, the workshop underscored the need for a university-wide research data stewardship strategy and program that could support long-term success and initiatives such as institutional implementation and adoption of machine actionable data management and sharing plans. Furthermore, we surfaced practical recommendations through this effort for others that are looking to pursue similar work. So some of the things that we found is kind of Key takeaways for doing this type of work was to start with stakeholder engagement, bring together the key units early, discuss their roles, pain points, and expectations, build collaboration before focusing on the technology. We need to understand what is needed from our community to build the correct technology for it, and to clarify the needs and workflows that folks are already using and where can it be improved. Next slide. And so looking ahead, Penn State is building on this pilot by continuing to enhance those collaboration efforts across units, and continuing to develop a mapping of information that exists in data management and sharing plans, and how does that relate to our service offerings, and or where are there gaps. And we're also going to be exploring how can we technically leverage the information and data management and sharing plans, both for service engagement. So idea being, can we take information that's in there and initiate contact with researchers from our service providers, as well as for compliance monitoring and resource allocation and provisioning. And with that, I will pass it to, I believe, University of Colorado Boulder, and say thank you.
This next slide, please. Next slide. I meant to, okay. Hi, so I'm Matthew. I'm Matthew number 2 of this presentation session. I'm a data librarian in the Center for Research Data and Digital Scholarship at the University of Colorado Boulder, and I'll talk about exploring machine actionable data management sharing plan use cases and functionalities at University of Colorado Boulder and the challenges that we face along the way. Next slide. So our goals were to create automated alerts for CRDDS, that is the Center for Research Data and Digital Scholarship personnel, when we or our infrastructure resources, such as the institutional repository, large-scale storage system, high-powered computer infrastructure, cloud computing resources, and so forth, are included in data management and sharing plans from awarded proposals. We wanted to track research outputs and data deposits related to grants in order to meet funding requirements for public access to research data, and streamline and centralize a collection of information about published data sets related to awarded DMSPs for reuse in other systems. Next slide. We also were hoping to incentivize researchers to deposit research data into our repository and also other repositories, develop a system for associating data sets with grants, link, read, and update metadata in the relevant data management plans via the DMP tool API, and pull content from DMSPs into existing campus services, such as the faculty activity databases, expert profile platforms, grants management systems, the institutional repository, and so forth. Next slide. So here's all or some of the different systems that are in place here at CU Boulder and ones that are outside of CU Boulder as well. So you have our large data set repository. We have CU Scholar, the institutional repository. We have the DMP tool that is specifically for CU Scholar, CU Boulder affiliates. We have the expert systems. And then outside that, we have funders, journals, data repositories, DataCite, ORCID, GitHub, and so forth. And so there's a lot of potential connections here or partial connections. And if we go to the next slide, our hope was that these would become like actual completed connections, and new connections being built between these things that would better connect the metadata and data that are associated with these. Next slide. However, this was not as easy. And then we have an entirely other system, which is the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics, that is also part of CU Boulder. It's a large research institute with custom-built scientific instruments gathering data around the solar system. It also has the Lizard data portal, which provides access to a variety of data sources via the Lattice web service interface. And supporting this portal is the Lemur metadata repository, which houses properties RDF triples about the data sets. And next slide. And so this is a separate system of interconnected things. And yes, they are great names. Lattice, Lizard, Lemur, and LASP. I think they did that on purpose, and how they connect to each other, and then also to things outside, such as the DMP tool and CU Scholar as well. So these were all different systems, and we had a lot of different systems and a lot of different ways of connecting them to each other. However, we ran into a number of issues. Next slide, please. So challenge number 1 was getting access to the data management sharing plans. We found it much more difficult and labor intensive to obtain these than we expected. We were hoping to get them from the Office of Contracts and Grants, but we were required to get permission from each PI in order to access their data management plan. So we couldn't just get them all from one place. We had to go to individuals to get them. Another issue we ran into was needing to adhere to high security standards for certain research projects working with sensitive data. So we have researchers doing data that is like government funded, military funded, and other things, where even access to the data management plan has higher security standards than most of the data management and data that we work with. So we ended up using a small number of data management and sharing plans as test cases. Some of these, I say small number of DMSPs, but some of the data management plans were very large indeed. And you have not really seen how large a data management plan can be until you've looked at one from NASA, which is over 30 pages long. And when you're working with data that is not on Earth, you can understand the challenges that are associated with archiving and making accessible that data. Yeah, next slide. So the next series of challenges we ran into was that published data management and sharing plans are not final data management sharing plans. So we have data management plans that we know are from CU Boulder faculty. They're published on DMP tool. They have a DMP ID, but these are not necessarily the same version that was submitted to a grant. So a researcher might create a data management plan using the tool and then download it to submit as part of the grant. But they might also edit it, change it after they've downloaded it. And researchers are very unlikely to return to the data management plans after the proposal stage. So they've written their data management plan, they've published it on DMP tool, they've downloaded it, and then they're not going back and saying, yes, this grant that was associated with this was approved, or it was not approved, or whatever. So we just had these data management plans, and we don't know if the grant was approved, if the grant was even submitted, because sometimes people, you get partially through a grant process and you were like, actually, I've run out of time, I can't make these deadlines. So we might have a data management plan for a project that doesn't exist. And then there was no easy way to tell this, because sometimes data management plan, the name of the grant proposal might also be different from the one that was actually submitted. So we'll see on a grant, a list of grants, we're like, okay, this is the researcher. This is a similarly named project, but it is a differently named project. And so is it the same is this data management plan associated with this, or is it a different one from that? So it was another of those challenges. Next slide, please. The third problem was that data sets are not identifying grants either. So publications like journal articles often acknowledge grants and awards and acknowledgements or similar sections, but we found that published data sets, including software and code, rarely say which grants or awards they're associated with. So this is the same problem from before. So we might have a data management plan and a data set and a grant, and they might all have slightly different names and they're not referring to each other, which makes the machine actionable part of this very challenging, because we have to go and like actually ask the researcher, hey, is this article and this grant and this data set and this data management plan, are these all for the same project, or are they actually for different ones? Next slide, please. So some of the takeaways that we had is that we improved connections with other units on campus, and these other units on campus want to continue to work with us on making our machine actionable data management plans more accessible and more connected with the systems on campus. We have a better understanding of how these fit into the research information ecosystem, both on campus and in the wider research world as well. We learned there's a surprising lack of integration and connection across systems and sources of information. So tying data sets directly to awards or data sets is often very challenging, and that there's also no one-size-fits-all solution for institutions using machine actionable data management and sharing plans. So, just because we ran into these problems, you might find it much easier for your campus, or you might be trying to do a different thing with your campus. But we think there's a lot of potential with machine actionable data management and sharing plans, and we hope to continue to work with these and have more automated connections to have the machine actionable part of that, so that we can better connect these systems and publications and data sets and everything together. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kat Kozier. I'm going to talk about the project at UC Riverside. We focused on 2 areas. The first was investigating the space of how DMPs support providing and gathering metadata required to deploy computing resources for research projects. We wanted to create a pipeline between machine actionable DMPs and research workflows, using the DMP as a source of truth. The second area we worked on was to help track research outputs and to create automatic notifications for campus stakeholders. The UCR team represented 3 divisions: the Office of Research and Economic Development, the College of Engineering, and the library. We had some challenges midway through the project as I took on a new position at Fresno State, but I was still able to stay and coordinate the project. On the next slide, we connect our project goals with our implementation and outcome, which is a proof of concept application that integrates with the DMP tool API to pull in DMP information and provides a portal to deploy virtual machines using Google Cloud Platform. The app also provides a notification and tracking system for various approvals with our initial investigation on how to track sensitive data. On the next slide, we see some screenshots of the app. It pulls information from the Machine Actionable DMP, including an overview of the project, funding sources, and other information gathered by the DMP tool, such as research outputs. This reduces the burden on PIs. Because now there's one place to view many things associated with their project. A challenge we had at implementation is we were only able to read the DMPs and had not yet connected to writing to the DMPs, but I believe it's a goal to incorporate documentation of the final metadata as appropriate in the next iteration of the app. The next slide shows deploying computational resources. Our original idea was to deploy computational resources based on scripts used to deploy on-prem campus server resources. We pivoted to focusing on GCP since the campus IT services was working on a method for tracking and approving GCP instances. The benefits of this is it's able to keep track of the detailed metadata, which is often required for replicability of research. We did have some early conversations on bitwise reproducibility, but quickly decided to focus just on the larger concept of deploying resources and how automated they could be. The protection level of the resources can be fairly automated based on DMP information and other aspects, especially of GCP, require manual selection at this point. There is a benefit to this as it will allow campus ITS to review requests for provisioning and make sure we're not being overcharged. The next slide demonstrates a tracking and commenting system. We tested out various prompts for using Google's LLM Gemini to gather detailed information. At the time of our investigation, unfortunately, DMPs lack the specificity to provide granular information to deploy resources. But the app actually centralizes tracking and comments so the prompts and the responses can be documented. The next slide has a screenshot of what is, in my opinion, the best outcome of our project. We created a notification and tracking system for campus stakeholders. DMPs are not standalone documents, but provide a plan that should be integrated with other parts of the campus, including data security plans. It was a known challenge at the time to identify and prioritize projects which require substantive data security plans. So we worked to identify the specific part of machine actionable DMPs, which indicate data security requirements, and coupled that with a notification system. Then as we were developing that, Victor, who was coordinating the app development, he asked me if it would be useful to also keep track of the approvals, to which I said yes. Yes, that is a very useful thing to do. It was by far the most beneficial outcome for the campus as a whole. Next slide, please. The project allowed a broad understanding of what DMPs are across campus. Before the project, most people had a more general understanding of the idea of a concept of what DMPs are. They didn't understand the specifics of how they could be used to benefit researchers. We had a lot of conversations about reducing burden on researchers and focusing on the benefit. We as data librarians, we all know that often DMPs are mostly seen as a checkbox to complete, usually because they are too general in detail to be of use. But the question I asked everyone is, what would it look like if we were able to get more granular details from them, and what are the challenges for that? A large challenge is for data security, including who has access to systems when. A detailed list that is of that information is useful, but that's not something that should be published publicly in a DMP. So that led us to develop something in between. A key success is that the library, or a key to the success, is that the library is a neutral stakeholder who had a broad understanding of how information and DMPs integrate with the larger campus research support systems and services. When I was leaving, I had some people tell me that I was ubiquitous with data and DMPs on campus and shared that they were really worried about how this project and research data management services might continue after I was gone. But in our conversations, I told them that any good data librarian can step into that role. The library is a great partner because it has made these connections between the different divisions. We have a large overview, understanding of what is, how it all interacts, and also UCR, there is support from administration for the project in general, and research data management in specific. A mid-career data librarian can easily come in and not just continue, but improve on those services. UCR's next steps is to create a campus level research computing portal, which will keep track of things like security and access, who is authorized to access research computing projects. It will allow the PI to update security and keep track of that. They're also going to be implementing and incorporating machine actionable DMP as appropriate. So they're taking that as really as the source of truth and building on it. But what we would not have been able to do this had we not been flexible in our approach and our end goals. We had a lot of setbacks through the project, but still kept just changing it slightly to investigate and focus on a different aspect of it. Some of our conversations really were, hey, we discovered we can't do this thing right now. But let's put the idea on a revisit pile because we might be able to do it in the future. We don't know. It's a good idea, right? But we just can't do it right now. And then we just moved on to a different idea for implementing the project. And I think that really is the main reason the project was successful, that we kept open communication about challenges and goals and had a positive mindset for trying to find solutions. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Matthew Harp, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about ASU's contribution to this MAP pilot project, which a key component of what we did, there was many aspects, was the development of a prototype for an AI-driven data management plan feedback agent that would basically provide immediate responses, nearly immediate responses to requests versus the traditional 3 to 4 business days that it would typically take for us to get back with folks who send in a request for feedback on their data management plan. And I really want to give a shout out to Nathan Rollins, who's a web application developer in our research technology office, who really did the lion's share of work in producing this prototype. So ASU is a large institution. We have a relatively small dedicated support network for the thousands of researchers at our institution. And, you know, again, many of those requests come at the last minute. I mean, how many of you get a last minute DMP feedback request on a Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. because something is due? There you go. Okay, so go ahead, next slide. So this all comes about because the Research Data Management Office at ASU and the Research Technology Office and the ASU Library have had a long-term formal partnership, and we recognize the need for a scalable solution that could provide consistent DMP feedback. And over the years, despite our outreach, there is a general lack of awareness for our support capabilities. So plans, while they may get funded, you know, the projects get funded, they're not actually actionable. So we were initially looking at ways to integrate the DMP tool with our Enterprise Research Administration System, ERA for short, as a way to notify service providers while proposals were being developed, but we ended up focusing on providing more of this like immediate feedback requests, and we'll get into that in a second. Next slide, please. So some of the challenges included the fact that both the library and the data management office, we use separate customer management systems. We needed to remediate responses to requesters in a more effective way. You know, again, a few weeks into the project, we ruled out the ERA system because there is just not an established development environment for it, and experimenting with a critical system for grant proposals and setting up false expectations for services was way too risky. So we decided just remove that from the equation. We did consider crosswalks and integrations were available for notification for support providers, including the DMP tool, ORCID IDs, and then downstream sharing services, such as our research data repository. We use Dataverse that has APIs, integration points. And really those areas, those downstream areas, because they typically don't get notified until, like, let's say a project is closing out. So we're really looking, how can we make this more efficient and gauge where people can get connected? Next slide, please. So our goal was to enhance the process and not work against it or create confusion for end users. Our review assistant uses Google's Gemini AI model. We did test a few others. That's the one that ended up seeming to be the best. It compares submitted plans against the DART rubric, not other plans itself, and supported documentation related to services at our institution. It does not train or compare submissions against each other, or like against other DMPs. Nathan tested the potential integration via the DMP tool API, but we also didn't want that to be a requirement since we provided the option for a plan to be entered through a text box as well as using a DMP ID. And we also realize and recognize that human feedback is still essential. So we had to have a mechanism for like email notifications, not only to the requester about their feedback, but to service providers as well. Next slide, please. So just a little bit, the DART rubric really quick is a 2015 project to standardize the review of data management plans. And that really served as a framing device for us. The DART score sheet provides a structured but basic breakdown of each section. Using the rubric instead of other plans prevented essentially bad information from being reused. And it wasn't about really judging the DMSPs for like scoring purposes, but identifying within a given section utilizing, the DMP tools templates. There's a lot of templates in there based on funders. Those structures would help us identify where service providers or information had been identified or left off. We also utilized the 2023 FASB DataWorks update, which combines the Belmont form and DART, adding additional and more current elements to the scoring. This review gauges whether they answered a specific question against the expectations laid out by the rubric, not whether the information matched a funded or unfunded plan. We do have the DART rubric DOI there. We can provide that later as well when these slides are provided, if you want to look more into that. Next slide, please. Going into the project, we established that trust was an essential component if we were to put this into the real world. So we are utilizing our licensing agreements with our AI vendors that protect user information from being used in public AI models. This was all internal. We also found that, the outputs were far more consistent going this direction than when we were doing in our human models, because it depended on who had the plan, who provided the feedback over time, and it wasn't always consistent. But this seemed to have a much more consistent and standardized approach. Again, that said, we don't want to just rely on automation providing feedback. So we really have to make sure that there is a human reviewer who is going to follow up with folks once this is submitted. Next slide, please. This slide is, I'm just representing basically the environment that we're working in. It represents an overall working environment. We call it the My AI Builder. It's a layered model. There's beta land, there's Create AI platform. It's a modularized approach. So really the end users that are working on developing these applications don't necessarily have to know all the details or be super, skilled in some of these areas. It really tries to open abilities for folks to develop new AI agents within the ASU's environment. You can learn more at ai.asu.edu. Next slide, please. Here we have a basic architecture for the agent. On the right, a client user interface where the DMP information is entered into the agent, working against those rubrics, rules, and folder templates processed by the AI DMP topics and DMP review bots. The final product is then sent back to the client interface. The same interactions can happen either through the DMP tool API or when a user just simply uses a DMP tool ID. Again, there's two different ways of going about doing this. Next slide, please. And this diagram demonstrates the user's entered information and how it is essentially processed through this system. And you can see that there's kind of this back and forth, almost like a helical. As it hits each bot, it goes back, hits each bot, goes back, and then to the end, it finally hits the review bot, which then sends the final feedback to the end user through the process. Next slide, please. So initial tests performed in July of 2024 provided basic information. And it was good. It was satisfactory. We realized, oh, theoretically, this does work. Again, we started looking at other framing models that we put in there. And by the fall of 2024, with the introduction of those additional rules and templates, it evolved into a much more useful feedback, broken into the respective sections that users would be more familiar with if they've been using the DMP tool, for example. It's much more readable, and it was reflective of the type of information the rubrics were designed to provide. Next slide, please. And again, throughout the process, our sense of context, transparency, and human interaction was key. We wanted to make sure that researchers will know what is happening when they click the request feedback button in whatever system they are using, and that there is always an opt-out option. If they don't choose the more immediate AI-driven response, they will receive a message noting that this is, that there's going to be more time. But if they do the AI response, they get this message saying this was auto-generated and it may not be accurate. Every request will still be sent to our team for review. There will possibly be a follow-up for either corrections, additional advice, or a heads up that a research support service provider may be reaching out to them. This promotes accountability and lets them know we care about their projects. We will provide human-centered review if they prefer, but again, the caveat is that takes more time. Now, point out, this is concept only. No one's actual information was ever in danger. We didn't actually present this to researchers. This was purely within our team to see if it was possible, which leads us to final slide. Next slide, please. Our next steps and outcomes. So one, all of this has actually strengthened that partnership I mentioned at the top. It really did bring awareness about our library's role in research support, how the library and the Research Technology Office work together. The Vice President of Research, the University Librarian, really were jazzed about this project. We really wanted to underscore the why behind it, but then we also want to look at expanding this pilot and really getting into actually doing real user testing with this AI-generated feedback and testing all of those systems and making it. With that, I think I'm turning it over to Maria.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I can see the chat's been very active, so I will keep my final thoughts pretty brief so that we have time for more discussion. But some of the common themes that we've seen from our presenters today, and then also from conversations with the rest of the cohort, we've heard a lot about growing cross-campus, cross-unit coordination. So the importance of having it, and then the ways in which machine actionable DMPs were able to really grow it and help facilitate increased collaboration. Also using it as a way to recognize the library as really a key hub for supporting research. Some of the challenges that were mentioned, a lot of talk about silos, a lack of centralized kind of information and enforcement of data policies. So there's really a desire, we heard a lot about a desire for higher level data governance role at various institutions. So throughout this pilot, again, we really saw the way in which campus communication was really important for making machine actionable DMPs a reality, and really showcased the way libraries were uniquely positioned to lead on research support and data management. Some of the pilots that we heard about today really have an amazing opportunity or potential for streamlining processes, for efficiency, for cutting costs potentially, but it doesn't come without. We also heard about the challenges, right? There are many unearthed gaps in the information that we have that made some of this work really difficult. So integrating these workflows really can ensure that all campus units have coordinated information, and then they can have a coordinated approach to how they work with researchers. So by unifying our data efforts through machine actionable DMPs, libraries can use this as a way to really reinforce their role as a central hub for research data stewardship, and ultimately, we hope, drive more effective institution-wide research management. So those are some final thoughts. Again, we are in the process of assembling all of the final reports, synthesizing our findings. So we'll be sharing that out in the coming months. We're also putting together a series of project webinars. So if you're interested in learning more about us, you can check out our project webpage. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can use the remaining, I think we have 10 minutes for any questions. And I have not been looking at them, so it's going to take me a minute to see.
I think the first one we should answer is the most recent one. For those new to the field, can you explain what machine actionable data management plans are?
Good one. All right, I'm going to leave it to one of the panelists.
I'll do it.
What was it to you? Yeah, there you go.
Okay, yeah, because there was a lot of conversation a while back about like machine readable data management plans, and I'm like, that's useless. All that is a text file. So to me, machine actionable data management plan is like being able to identify the different components of a data management plan. So then you can actually take actions on it, machine actions on it, such as getting a data repository ready to ingest, I don't know, a terabyte of data. I think that was like the most obvious one to me, which is why, and with I talked to on at UCR, I'm like, let's think of something else because somebody else is going to do that. That one's easy. So we were looking at, well, what can we do? What machine actions can we take based on information here? And then how can we supplement and change the culture to provide more information on DMPs so that it can be more useful within a computational workflow.
Nice. Excellently said. Thank you, Kat. Anybody else have any things to add? All right. I see that Sun Young had questions, but if you could just maybe synthesize your question into one, and then I will know it'll be easier for me to ask the panel. And then we can review that. It sounds like you had some questions for Matthew Murray from his talk.
Looking through the Q&A, what were some of the common RDM pain points that institutional partners expressed across your projects that MA DMSP may or may not be able to solve? One of the big ones, and this is longstanding and very common, is just faculty not reporting on when they publish their data sets. Like we have a faculty reporting system that faculty are required to use. There's a data section that they can put things into, and very few people are actually using that. So we don't know when data sets are being published unless they're publishing them with us in our institutional repository or coming straight to us. And so that is something that makes it very challenging to do this. If we don't even know the data sets are published, connecting them to other systems is a problem.
And I can add another pain point that came up a lot during the workshop that we did was getting the different stakeholders the information they needed when they needed it. So a lot of folks mentioned there's valuable information in the data management and sharing plan. It would benefit the work that I do and support if I had that when the project either is going through proposal or funded, but they just don't have access to that information in a way that's easily then usable or actionable, as Kat was describing with machine actionable data management and sharing plans.
Yeah, and I can add one more thing. So this came up with our partner discussions. We can do a lot of technical work and connect the plumbing between these systems, but it's difficult to control the quality or the completeness of the input that you're going into the DMP.
Yep.
Like the institutional cultural aspects of a project, like adopting these new workflows, like getting everybody to use what we're creating is really the hardest part. So I think we're going to continually deal with that. That's why I was mentioning at the end that, just the training, the outreach, the communication, like a lot of technical people don't think about that when they're working, but that's like a huge part of what you're doing because otherwise nobody's going to use it.
And I'll just throw in again with the pain points that we heard a lot from obviously the support groups, the service providers, and this was acknowledged by some of our other colleagues earlier, that we just don't see a lot of the DMPs, honestly. Like we get a sliver. And when we did try to go out and survey and require them, it was really, really difficult to do. We were either challenged with, well, you need to go to the individual PI and get their permission to do it, or folks didn't know where they were at. In many cases, again, why we didn't go with ERA was because the actual researchers in many cases aren't even using that system. They're submitting it to their research assistant or administrator who's doing that work for them. So it's the workflows and the communication channels are fragmented all over the place. We're talking to each other, but we're not sharing the same information consistently. And again, when we did get access to a lot of those DMPs, we were shocked they were funded, because many times the repositories that were mentioned weren't even real repositories. They might have been metadata indexes and things like that. So we got a lot of work to do moving forward.
That's one of the ones we're hoping to get more of, is like when researchers are like, oh, hey, we're going to put this like secure sensitive data into CU Scholar, and we're like, no, you can't do that. Don't do that. We don't let you put sensitive data into a repository. So yeah.
Yeah, we've got the same experience. We see a fraction of the plans, and we see a lot of things in the plans that we're like, whoa, step back a second, let's let's talk about this.
And I'll just quickly add, I know there's many things coming in, but I know just like working on this project is leading to like changes in our own systems here at Penn State, for instance, in that like right now, data management plans are embedded into like the project narrative proposals. So we can get to ones, but it's really challenging to pull easily. And so actually we're going to be working with our research office to see if we can have kind of a separate upload for those so that we can actually then move around and access that information more easily, to kind of pull out, as that person said, the promises and such.
Yeah,
in
I
the
see
chat.
in the chat. Oh, all right,
Oh.
go ahead.
I understand PIs don't necessarily use the version created in DMP tool even after they issue a DMP ID, and even worse, don't use the follow-up tab afterwards. If you could allow DMP tool users to upload the DMSP directly to the portal, such as ERA Commons or NSF portal, it would solve this problem. DMP tool, one of the things that was being worked on was uploading DMPs to DMP tool and then connecting them to grants that way and importing data from the grant. So that was one connection point that was being worked on.
Yeah, that was kind of the first task we asked of our pilot partners, was to gather DMPs, which is thus kind of what we're talking about here, the challenges of getting those DMPs, and then to test out our new feature to upload plans, working on how we can structure plans from a PDF, what information we can get out, trying to make it easier for researchers who don't create their plans in the DMP tool to get DMP IDs so that institutions could still use it as a tool without requiring their researchers to use the DMP tool. That was kind of the thinking behind it. So it was really interesting to hear from our pilot partners their various challenges in doing that. So even when we call them problems, they were actually really helpful for us as far as figuring out what hurdles we need to work on and what what challenges we need to overcome, which a lot of it has to do with missing metadata, where we're not able to make connections between things because the information is not there. Kat, did you have something?
Yeah, actually, I was hoping that we could like follow up our last question possibly on the siloed aspect. That there is a question about working in a siloed institution. And I wanted to address that. I was really lucky, and I've worked in a siloed institution, and there's different levels of things being siloed. At UCR, I was early on as a data librarian, I was able to integrate myself with the proposal developers and then also with the various IT folks. So as a library, as being a neutral stakeholder, I'm like, yeah, I understand this. I understand IT. I understand grants. I'd worked on grants for a really long time and then had just over time established trust with them. And so while things might be siloed, like at an administrative level at times, we were able to share information as people who provide services between the divisions. And that really laid the groundwork for me being able to quickly ask a couple of people, hey, do you want to do this? And do the project.
And if there's time, I can add quickly to that one, because we similarly here at Penn State had a couple projects where we had some close collaborations between the libraries and the Office of Research, but specifically for the event that we were doing and trying to get broader understanding of who our major stakeholders were. That event really gave us kind of an impetus to reach out and invite representatives from every department in our Office of Research and our research institutes as a starting point to make sure we had representation from those. But we actually also put out a general Penn State news article inviting interested parties to participate in our event to try and determine or kind of unearth any of those other folks that might be interested or be stakeholders that we were unaware of.
We are at time, unfortunately. I feel like this is a conversation that we could continue having for quite a while, which is awesome. But I just want to give a huge thank you to all of our panelists and our presenters and our audience for the wonderful chat you guys were having and participating in this session. So just to let you know, we are going to be moving over to our poster session 1. So this webinar will not close. So if you don't want to go to the posters, or if you just plan on what is it, session 4B, if you wanted to catch that, feel free to stay in this webinar. If you want to see the posters, please exit this, and you can find the Zoom link in Feedloop. And just yeah, so we will see you all here in, I'm gonna say 2-ish. I did not look at the time, so we can check that in Feedloop. But thank you again, everyone, for the wonderful conversation, and thank you to our panelists. And we will move all the questions over to Feedloop, so they will be there to continue. So yes, thank you again. Have a good afternoon, and we'll see you shortly.
Thanks all.